Yo, what's going on, guys? So if you want to be a more explosive athlete, you want to sprint faster, jump higher, and dominate your sport, then you need to stop wasting time doing random workouts, and you need to add these 5 training pillars to your training every week to make sure that you're maximizing your athleticism. So let's get right into those 5 things. So for those of you that don't know, I'm Coach KP. I'm a sports performance coach here in Toronto, and I've worked with a lot of athletes from different sports, mostly hoopers. What I'm going to do today is give you the exact component of what you need to do in your training every week to unlock elite level athleticism. So starting with number 1, the king of athleticism, this is sprinting. So sprinting pretty much is nervous system driven. So it teaches your nervous system how to produce force really quickly. It'll improve your stride efficiency, acceleration, first step quickness, and just overall full body coordination. And it does have a high carryover to any sport, which is why you gotta train this minimum 1 to 2 times per week. Now, sprinting has 3 different components. So you got your acceleration component. So this is anywhere between 10 to 30 meters of work. So these are your short sprints. These are your resisted sprints. And then you got your top end speed work. So this is your max velocity. This is increasing your speed from 40 to 60 meters of work. And then you got your speed endurance. So this is anywhere above 60 meters of sprint work. And so usually you want to try and train those 3 components. Obviously, the third one is not really as important if you don't have the acceleration and the top end speed. So you want to basically prioritize those 2 first, and then kind of sprinkle in the speed endurance type component in there. You want to train that 1 to 2 times per week minimum. You also want to think of quality versus quantity, right? Sprint training sometimes get mixed in with conditioning. Pretty much when you're developing speed, fatigue is the enemy. So you don't want to be tired when you're sprinting because you want to be able to reach a certain level of speed. And so this is number 1 because it's probably one of the most important things you can do when it comes to developing your overall athleticism. Number 2, you want to train plyometrics. So if sprinting is the fire, you got to think of plyometric as the spark. So typically this complements sprinting well because usually after your sprint work, you tend to go into your plyometric work to continue to train that quality. So with plyometrics, that's going to teach you how to absorb and produce force quickly as well. It's going to teach you how to be more reactive and elastic off the ground, which is a crucial quality when it comes to doing any sort of athletic movements. Whenever you're, trying to get vertical, trying to produce power horizontal, or just being quick, changing directions, you gotta have quick reaction time and quick ground contact time. And you gotta be able to produce force, a lot of force in a short amount of time. And so you want to do this pretty much 2 to 3 times per week. And you got to think of quality over quantity as well. So depending on how intensive your plyometric work is, you obviously want to stick to more quality versus quantity. And then when you get to the more extensive plyometric, which is pretty much your low level movements, you can add more reps and more volume. And so these are exercises like pogo hops, you got your ankle jumps, you got your depth box jumps, depth hurdle jumps, you got continuous broad jumps. So these are all great plyometric movements that you can supplement your sprint training. Number 3, we got Olympic lift variations. So obviously as an athlete, you're not an Olympic weightlifter, so you don't really need to focus too much on those traditional Olympic lifts. A variation of those Olympic lifts is a great way to develop power, develop eccentric strength. I'm a big fan of power variations, so like power clean, hang power clean, power snatches. Not really a fast movement like a sprint and a plyometric drill. It's kind of in that in between, which is, I feel like it's still important. So you want to train these, 1 to 2 times per week. And normally you can slot this in right after your plyometric work. So you got your sprints, plyometrics, and then you got your power movements. So this is your Olympic lifts. And so I know a lot of coaches, they're not a big fan of Olympic lifts, but I feel like it develops a, certain level of confidence when you can do them because it's very challenging when it comes to coordination. And so when you can do an Olympic lift, I feel like it just moves the needle to building your athleticism because it involves a lot of coordinative demands. You can use a dumbbell, you can use a kettlebell. So there's many alternatives, but I find that there's value into doing variations of Olympic lifts just because of what it demands. So you got your, absorption when it comes to, catching a bar on your shoulder. So if you think of the fast eccentric movements that's happening and the catch, and also generating power in a short amount of time. It still plays a pretty good role when it comes to developing power. And I feel like athletes that can perform Olympic lifts can pretty much do any sort of exercise. And it also improves their overall coordination, which ultimately leads to better athleticism. So number 4, we got your compound lifts or your compound movements. So you can't be explosive if you're weak. So you gotta hit your compound lifts, you gotta develop your strength because strength is the foundation. So if you think of it like a pyramid, strength is pretty much that lower base. So the wider the base, the higher the peak. And so you gotta get strong to be able to protect your body from external forces, withstand those forces, and also to generate power, right? You need to be strong. These are lifts like a trap bar deadlift, a regular deadlift, back squat, front squat. These are your chin up variations, weighted chin ups, bench press variations. And so overall, you got to develop full body strength, and you want to hit these maybe 2 to 4 times per week. And this doesn't have to be on the same day as your sprint, plyos, and power training or Olympic lift training. This could be the day after. Like, you can break these down depending on how many training days you have per week. Obviously, the more training days you have per week, you can break it down even more. And so you want to prioritize obviously technique and intent. And when it comes to developing your strength, you want to be more progressive with it. So week after week, you want to be able to, add more than what you were doing the week before. Number 5 is probably the most important skill. You got to have great change of direction speed. You got to be able to decelerate, and you have to have good agility. So speed is great, but it's useless if you can't slow down, stop on a dime, and re-accelerate to change directions. Team sport athletes know how important it is to be able to react and be able to evade and maneuver around their defenders to be able to get to a certain spot or to be able to score and just beat your defenders and have that competitive edge. And so this is a quality that you need to train at least 1 to 2 times per week. And normally when you have your team sport practice, you're already getting a little bit of this, but it's also important to be able to refine your technique by training this separately. So the best thing you can do is you want to have a mixed approach, and you also want to add a little bit of conditioning with these type of drills, because in sport, fatigue does play a role with how you move and how you react. And so by training this quality under fatigue as well, you can also get that competitive edge. So you want to do a mixture of pre-planned cone drills and while also doing some reactive and chaotic drills where you're forced to react to a person, you're forced to react to a call, or if you have the resources, you can use a tool like the Fit Light where you could set up different scenarios using the lights and sound and be able to move and react to those stimulus. So if this video was helpful, make sure you guys like, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Comment down below if you have any questions. And if you want to check out some of my training programs to help you build elite level athleticism, check out the links in the description below.